In Uganda, being yourself can cost you your life. For LGBTQ+ individuals, existence itself is criminalized, and love becomes a death sentence.
Uganda's parliament has passed a bill which would criminalise people who identify as LGBTQ, with those found guilty facing up to 10 years in prison. Under the proposed legislation, friends, family and members of the community would have a duty to report individuals in same-sex relationships to the authorities. Homosexual acts are already illegal in the East African country, but the bill seeks to go further and criminalise people on the basis of their sexual identity. The bill passed with widespread support in Uganda's parliament.
Country, we will have our morals, we will protect our children, and we are making this law, for ourselves, we are making this law for our children, we are making this law for the children of our children. This country will stand firm. Tell you, Madam Speaker, we are going to reinforce the law enforcement officers to make sure that homosexuals have no space in Uganda.
Asylum seekers and immigrants who fled their countries because of a well-founded fear of persecution because of their sexual orientation are often faced with discrimination in South Africa, both from homophobic elements but also from xenophobic elements, as well as challenges they face at the refugee reception center where they're trying to apply for refugee status.
We are responsible for them, but we need to know who you are responsible to and how many and how to cater for them. And when budgets are given, that needs to be taken into consideration. That is actually not so.
In Uganda, LGBTQ individuals face a harsh reality. This graph from the Equaldex for LGBT Equality Index shows minimal legal rights and the lack of social acceptance. The country scores low in both public opinion and legal rights, highlighting a systemic failure to protect or recognize LGBTQ rights. This is where being different means being denied safety, justice, and belonging. Without legal safeguards and with widespread social prejudice, LGBTQ people here must navigate a world that refuses to acknowledge their humanity. The struggle is not only for legal rights, but for the right to exist simply. This triangle represents the different layers of violence faced by marginalized communities like LGBTQ individuals. At the top, we see direct violence, those visible acts that grab headlines, physical attacks, public harassment, or discrimination in public. But beneath the surface lies cultural and structural violence, the hidden forces that do harm silently. Cultural violence involves societal norms, beliefs, and attitudes that justify or normalize the mistreatment of LGBTQ people. It's the rhetoric of family values being twisted to marginalize and the religious narratives that paint LGBTQ identities as sinful. On the other side is structural violence, policies, laws, and institutions that deny basic rights and opportunities. These forms of violence are often invisible, but they are deeply embedded in the system. They create environments where access to healthcare, employment, and safety is restricted simply because of who someone loves or how they identify. Together, these three forms of violence, direct, cultural, and structural, form a complex web of oppression. While direct violence might be the most visible, the foundation lies within the deep-rooted cultural and structural injustices that enable and sustain it. This diagram shows the concept of intersectionality. It is a framework for understanding how various aspects of identity intersect to create overlapping systems of discrimination and disadvantage. For LGBTQ individuals who are also people of color or immigrants, the challenges are compounded. It's not just about facing homophobia, sexism, or racism separately. It's about how these identities interact, creating experiences of oppression that are more than the sum of each part. The more circles you occupy, the more intersecting lines of discrimination you must navigate. Intersectionality helps us understand that no one lives a single-issue life.
According to the article by Oker, we find that religion's narratives often frame LGBTQ migrants as threats to social order, masking deeper ties to colonial legacies and systemic exclusion. This exclusion manifests in systemic marginalization, such as Uganda anti-homosexuality bill and delayed assumed process in South Africa. To address this, we can promote progressive religion dialogue, link traditional value to colonial histories, and advocate for international collaboration. According to Abby and Lauren's article, we find that DST digital storytelling is another powerful tool. It enables marginalized voice to share their experiences, connect with global advocacy effort, and challenge stereotypes. However, we must ensure privacy protection, equitable access, and diverse representation to maximize its impact. Lastly, systemic barriers like biased asylum process and healthcare exclusion heighten vulnerability for LGBT migrants. Solutions include gender-sensitive assessment, streamlined asylum applications, and strong human rights advocacy to ensure dignity and exclusion for all.